Hey guys, happy Thursday to everyone out there. Welcome into episode 2 of Personal Development Hacks. Glad to have you here. Um, like most people, you've set probably God knows how many goals and promises to yourself. And if you're like most people, um, you've fallen short of them, either because life happened or you feared failure or something that just prevented you from actually pushing forward and seeing your way through till the end. The last episode, we talked a lot about goals, how to set them, what to focus on. Just to recap real quick, make sure that you're focused on lifetime goals, not short time goals, things that will affect your life in a positive aspect, not just the next 6 months, 9 months, stuff like that. Those can be little steps on the ladder in your way towards the ultimate goal, but don't sell yourself short. Aim big with these. Um, Also, as well, when you're thinking about those goals and setting them, is involving others in it. Take some time to think about what you're setting and who needs to be told because it's going to impact people. If it's say wealth and you want to stop a 9 to 5 job because you've got a great idea to start your own thing or something along those lines, but there's going to be that time between that steady paycheck coming every 2 weeks and ultimately when you get your business up and going. So your family and friends and everyone, I mean, the people that are closest to you, they need to know kind of that path that you're on, and why it's important to you and that you're doing it. If it's, say relationships, involve the person that you're wanting to develop a better or closer relationship with in that decision. What's important to you may not be important to them, and what's important to them may not be important to you. So you want to go in with that clear head before you actually set that as a goal to make sure that the person that you're doing it for, it is important to them. Um, and if it's health, it's, I there was a saying I can't remember exactly what it is, but in the end, it's in life we never actually fail. We just learn. Those things that we fall short of or that hold us back, those are items that we learn from instead of looking at it as a failure. Look at it as it's a chance, it's an opportunity to learn what to do next time, what not to do next time, um, things like that. Ways to adjust. It's that flight where it's only going straight twice and the rest is just course corrections. Um, if it's a huge roadblock, you need to have a great game plan. If it's just a little pebble, maybe it's something where you wake up one day and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm still going to get this done. Said I'd go for an hour walk, but my schedule today is only allowing me 45 minutes. Instead of just saying, well, that's it, that's where you have to push through and say, you know what, I'm still going to get my 45 minutes. Every step you take is progress. It's another step. It's habit development, things that'll keep you moving forward towards your ultimate goal, no matter what that goal is. Now, if you're sitting out there and you're thinking that, well, my goal is really specific or it's very aimed at something, that's great. I mean, you've narrowed it down to a specific thing, but you still need to develop that goal of everything else that we just talked about. So, for most of the episode today, we'll be talking about the why behind the what. Um, and that's probably the most important part of it is knowing why you're doing and why you have that goal that's out there. Why is it important to you? Who else is it important to? Um, and what help or assistance or support or accountability do you need along the way, to be able to get through to it? What you'll find as you go through this step is, as you keep asking and keep digging, your ultimate reason for wanting something or needing something, like, to have another job that's not a 9 to 5, or to get fit for a lifetime, or to improve a relationship. That might be the goal, but then you find out why, and that is what really is going to drive you through. I'm a big believer there's a difference between motivation and inspiration. We talked about it a little bit last time, where motivation is what gets you out of bed in the day, but motivation only goes so far sometimes. If you're motivated to get out of bed to get to work on time only because you would risk getting fired if you don't, that's not really making progress. That's showing up. Same thing with, say, getting fit. If your goal is just to fit in a suit, or to, have a certain waist size or weigh a certain amount, it's a short-term aspect, and that's not actually even touching on why that's important. So first step in this, once you kind of get to this step, is as soon as you've identified whatever that goal is start asking yourself those questions. Why is it important? Ask again, why is that important? Ask again, who else is it important to? Who's going to be impacted by it? What's a risk that I'm willing to take that, if it doesn't go quite the way that you want, that you're okay with it? And what's your non-negotiable list? Like, I'm going to keep doing this and keep going unless X happens. And at that point, then it's like you need to you just go back through the process. Given this new information, you didn't fail, you just learned that was your non-negotiable. So let's just take it as an example. For me, so my goal when I started out a few years ago was to get fit. And it boiled down to me wanting to not be the dad that sat there and was watching my kids, but I couldn't participate. And I wanted to be more involved with being able to do things with them, be more active because they're both active in things that they're involved in: baseball, softball, golf, and, hiking, biking, stuff like that. So that was my initial inspiration, was my children. And that's what allowed me not to fail or not to fall short and to keep going and learn as those things came up. Is, I'd wake up one morning and it'd be snowing out or something like that. And there's a few times where I seriously contemplated, like, God, I could use a day off. But all it took was one look at my daughter, one look at my son, and because I involved them, having them look at me saying, Dad, what are you going to do today? It's raining out. You going to do something? Because I involved them, they pushed me, and that what seemed like a roadblock became a little pebble, and you just find a different way. Now, your inspiration is always going to be there. It can change over time. It's not like motivation that can change on a daily basis. It's inspiration, something that inspires you to want more, to keep pushing, and it changes. So while my inspiration is still my children, now that I am fit and I am sharing those things with them, um, it's my new norm. It's who I am, not what I'm doing. Um, so now we've moved on to um, an example for with them is it's not so much about the fitness aspect; it's the legacy that I'm going to leave to them. Um, I want to be able to have my children, um, if they're going to college, and when they get to that point, which is coming soon, um, if they go through it and they're presented with an opportunity or they have an idea for something that might not pay off in the initial aspect, I'm going to go through this with them and say, okay, well, how are we going to make this work? I want to give them freedom of choice, which we should all strive to do for our kids, is let them choose their path and not have their path chosen for them. It's kind of a fortunate or unfortunate side of our education system is you learn all this book knowledge in college as you go through, and it's a lot of theory and what was written however many years ago. But when you get out, how does that actually translate? Do are you in marketing, where you got to go try and find a marketing job? Are you in um, business administration, where you're going to go try and work your way up into a management position? um, there's some jobs out there that are, we're all glad that they go to a lot of school, and that's doctors and dentists and lawyers and stuff like that. um, and there are certain jobs out there where it does require that schooling and that knowledge to be able to then put it into practice in the real world. But for most of us, it becomes our choice. I graduated with a degree in business administration. Um, Shortly thereafter, I got my job at the company, and I was sitting in a cubicle that had no windows. I was looking at a screen that didn't have color. Now, this will date me a little bit. So it wasn't even connected really to the internet. It was hardwired into the company's system, which was in the basement. And I was basically looking for pennies of huge transactions. And I was looking to figure out like where some of these pennies or quarters or whatever, where they would fit in that. Okay, was it supposed to go here and it went here, stuff like that. Um, and I was miserable, and I was using my degree, and that was like my foot in the door to hopefully do well and excel and show my worth. Then I would actually get to use the management side of that business aspect. But to start out, it was terrible. I mean, I wasn't enjoying it, and just staring at a green screen for hours on a day, and all of a sudden the numbers just start to meld together. Um, and it became Groundhog Day. Every day was basically the same day. Get up, go to work, stare at the green screen, find some money, go home, eat, do whatever, go to bed, do it again. Just waiting for that 5 o'clock on Friday when it was like, I'll see you guys on Monday. And that shouldn't be the life that really any of us kind of aspire to or inspires us to actually really truly excel at what we're doing. Fortunately for me, again, I'll date myself. I found an ad in the newspaper, an actual newspaper, that all it said was unlimited income potential. Call, and it gave a number. And I thought to myself, well, unlimited, that sounds like that's for me. Went, called, showed up, and it was for a mortgage broker position. So I didn't have to be licensed or anything back then. Um, and I talked to my parents about it, and I was like, I am having no fun doing this, and this is really getting me nowhere. I'm 22 or whatever. I want to have some freedom in here while I can enjoy it. And this is what I'm thinking at the time. So I'm going to do this, and got a bartending job on the side to make ends meet. And then, just out there peddling my loans and stuff like that, and establishing relationships with people, and establishing kind of, everything with, my client base. And it gave me that freedom that I was looking for. And then you'd have a good month and a couple of good months, and it started to go fairly well. Um, so that's the past, right? If I fast forward now, I think now is when I'm truly living like my best life. Is, I work the hours that are necessary, and I do work a lot, but it's usually on my own schedule. I still get to, before she starts driving this year, I still get to drop my daughter off every morning, pick her up every day, get her to practice and everything. My son's a senior, so he's got his car and he's in baseball, so he takes himself wherever he needs to go. Um, but that's ultimately where I'm at now. Is they see what I'm doing, and hopefully it's inspiring them. And we've talked about it at length about what it takes to be inspired. Find something that you enjoy getting out of bed for, and you can make a career out of it. Let's face it, we all, there's a uncountable number of careers and ways that we can make money, make wealth in the world. It's just finding what you truly enjoy and what speaks to you. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that, anyone listening out there, that you should just get up and quit your job tomorrow and, go do whatever. But if that is one of your goals, is that freedom of schedule, you need, okay, but what does that look like? Do some research beforehand to figure out, like, one, what you're good at, two, what you enjoy, and three is going to make enough to replace what you had with that biweekly paycheck into the future. And that can take a lot of different routes. Okay. So with the why behind the what, just start off and just ask yourself. You should ask why at least 7 times. This step is going to take probably the longest and the most mental effort from you to actually go through, be vulnerable, be honest, be open with yourself about why these things are important to you. If it's, you want to get fit or you want to lose weight, that's great. But why do you want to lose weight? Well, because I got a suit that I got to fit in for this wedding. Okay. Well, why is it important that you fit in that suit for that wedding? Well, there's some people that I haven't seen since, high school or college days or old friends or whatever that are going to be there. And I want to show why, what I'm actually doing, not the shape that I'm currently in. Okay. Again, why is it important that their opinion matters as to what you look like? And as you get deeper into it, you start to really have to start thinking about your emotions and, well, damn, why is that important? And I'm not going to take it any further because it's your own journey, your own path. But the important lesson with this, the why section, is you need to make sure to take the time to go through this deeply and thoroughly to find your true inspiration, because it's going to drive the rest of your process and your successes forward. And it's because you're going to be doing it for the right reasons, um, and the right people. Like I said, with the guy that wanted to fit into a suit, if he gets to the end, it's like, well, I got it, but the real reason that this is important to me is, you know, my dad has heart problems and it's congenital, or, you know, my dad always joked about how big his beer belly was, and I just don't want to be him. I want to show my kids something different in life than what my dad showed, what he shows my kids and what I'm showing my kids, by basically following the same exact path. Okay. So, just a quick story. Friend I know, Mark, we were talking about COVID and stuff like that. And I had lost weight during COVID, and he kind of made the comment, well, I went the other way, actually. I gained a lot of weight. And he's like, but I'm getting back at it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, why is it important to you? And he went through the standard litany of reasons. But in the end, why it became important to him and what his ultimate accomplishment is going to be. He's got 3 sons, and he coached all 3 of them baseball when they were growing up, all the way through high school, up until they got into high school. And he, at the time, was expecting his first grandchild, who is a boy. And he wants to teach him baseball, and he wants to be able to coach his grandson the same way that he coached his sons. So that's what I'm talking about. He found his true inspiration is every day that he sees his grandchild and gets to go out, and as the kid gets older, he starts to play catch and starts hitting and stuff like that. Mark is going to be fit to the point to where he's going to be able to enjoy that and play catch and help him hit and do it with him, rather than sitting on the sidelines watching it take place in front of him. And he's a bystander. He's just a cheerleader, basically. He wants to be involved in it. So that became his ultimate inspiration, was not so much the fitness point, but it became about he wants to share the same memories with his grandson as he did with his sons in baseball, being able to show them and teach them exactly what that looks like. So, just a quick plug. If you guys are liking what you're hearing and you want more information, certainly if you want to get involved in the program, which is going to contain, it's an 8-week program. There are group calls once a week. It's people that are going to be going through the exact same thing that you're going through. Their goals are different. Their idea of success is different, but they're going to be going through that same path along the lines. And maybe someone that is on there has hit the same hurdle that you're hitting, and you'll be able to share exactly how they kind of navigated it. So if that's the case, please take a second, just click below, or just go to the website below, go.project9life.com, and you'll get a lot more information there. That'll just walk you through exactly kind of what you get. There's other stuff that comes with it in terms of, access to certain things. And, we're always changing and evolving, just like we should. there's different things that are out there. There's different ways that people are making it work. Um, I'd love to be on here at some point in the future and share your story of what your inspiration was and how you progressed, and certainly kind of how you got through all that stuff. So there's a great opportunity for you guys to be more involved on a lot more one-on-one basis than just here on E360 TV and just watching. So the important thing with once you find your inspiration, is what that's going to help with is if you are feeling like I did back in the day, where you're on a carousel, right? Every day, every week is the same. And you want more, and there's more available, but you feel stuck in the comfort of a 2-week paycheck, the fear of success or failure, and make sure that you dream big. Put your goals out there, and don't put it on a bucket list. Don't put it on a vision board. The problem with those couple of things that people do is, well, that's great. You thought about it and you put some time into putting together a bucket list, putting things on your vision board. But what they lack is, how do you get there, right? Like, you'll see a lot of people that they'll put a huge mansion and it's got a pool and, it looks over the ocean and stuff like that. And they're working, a job that is not going to be able to afford that. And for them, they need to find different ways to utilize their skill set, to get more money coming in the front door to be able to go and get that house. Same thing with, it's everything. People put cars up there, or bucket lists. They'll put like all these travel destinations and stuff like that, which is awesome. It's good to have those things kind of in your mind as far as things that you want to do, but you got to have a plan as to how you're actually going to make them happen. Because if you're like most people, at the end of last year, beginning of this year, they took their vision board or their bucket list, they looked at it, maybe they didn't cross anything off. They might have crossed like one thing off, like I went to Mexico, or I played this golf course or something like that. But other than that, all they do is cross the year out and put 2023 in. And that's just it. You start to get into that cycle of, you do that once, twice, some of us, 20 times or something like that. If we're 35 to 45, we've done it probably at least 15. But you got to break out of that cycle of, because those vision boards, what they turn into is not necessarily this is my vision and here's my plan to be able to achieve X, Y, and Z, or to go here to buy this, to do this. But they become this is what happens when I win the Powerball, or this is what happens when it's found that I had a second uncle who died and he was worth a ton of money, and now I can do all this stuff. Okay. Don't Powerball is not a plan. Let's just say that. If you're fortunate enough to win it, be smart with it, and knock some of those things out. Do whatever you need to do, but don't be one of the 90% of people who win a Powerball or win some kind of a lottery event, and within 2 years they're broke again. Okay, let it level you up, not just, oh, I can spend all this, and then you're living back to where you were before. Um, I think Steve Harvey actually said it best. He's like, people say that money doesn't change you. And he's like, I completely disagree. He's like, money absolutely changes you. He's like, but if you're a good person before you have money, once you have money, you become a better person. Same thing as vice versa. If you were a jerk before you had money, once you get money, you just become a bigger jerk. Okay. So I think it's something like 85% of people can't imagine um, a salary more than two times what they're currently making. So if you're at 100, um, can you imagine making five? Because I'll tell you, the biggest thing is like, if you're at 100 to get to 200, it's tough. Like, you got to really get at it. You got to put the time, put the effort in, make a difference, show your worth, create some change or push the company agenda or whatever, push forward, whatever ultimately it is that you're doing. That's tough. But I'll be honest with you, to get from 1 to 2, as tough as that is, to get from 2 to 4 actually becomes easier. And then from 4 to 8 becomes even easier. And it's because you get exposed to a lot more opportunities that that are going to come to you because of as you reach those higher levels. Um, take Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or any of these guys. They acquire their wealth not because they work harder and they get paid a certain amount. That has nothing to do with it. How many emails and phone calls and texts and everything do you think those guys get that obviously at this point get vetted way ahead of ever getting to their desk, but that come to them and present them with, hey, I've got this as an opportunity. Would you like to be involved? So they've built themselves into a place where, and you can do the same, where as you grow economically, you start to attract more. Same thing with fitness, same thing with relationships. When we've all done it, where you're sitting at a restaurant or a get together or, a big gathering or whatever, and there's always one couple that every time you see them, it just seems like they're just so into each other and they're so in love and they want nothing but the best for each other and they cherish those moments. And you're like, God, that's just a lucky couple. Well, I'm sure that has a little bit to do with it, but at the same time, they speak each other's language, right? That's why it's important if you're talking about relationships, is to, when you're setting your goal, and it's important to you that I need to develop this better relationship with my kids, with my significant other, my extended family, whatever it is, that you involve them in it to make sure that what you think you're going to focus on for your goal is actually important to them. Because if you're over here doing this because it's you think, well, I'm improving the relationship, and this is what actually would do it for them. Well, you're not speaking the same language. So that's why it's important to share with them that it's important that you improve the relationship, and you want their help and their assistance in figuring out, okay, what's important to you? What do you like? What don't you like? And have them ask the same questions of you, so that you both can be working towards the common goal And the common goal is improved relationship. It's just improved, and what it takes can be different depending on the couple people involved. Um, so always just keep in mind with your inspiration, it is going to take the most effort, um, just mentally and emotionally, to be able to get to that true why. Um, if you get there and it just doesn't feel like enough, then okay, why is this seventh why almost there, but not quite? Ask again. Ask yourself again, like, okay, why is that important to me? Or why is that important to them? Or why is it important that I achieve X? And what impact will that have on my not just short time, but my lifetime? Because that's what we're all building for. We talked about it yesterday, how those productive decades are, later in life. Now, I know that gets skewed a little bit because, as you start to get into your 60s and especially your 70s, yeah, you're retired and you're not working and you're doing all this stuff, but you don't want to wait. I mean, until you're 70 and say, okay, now I'm going to have a good decade. Start having your good decade now. Nothing says that you can't live your best life in your whatever 30s, 40s, and have the life that you look at and you're like, well, that's what I wanted when I was 70, but I'm 36. And, I have freedom of schedule. I've got a great relationship. I've got fitness and I'm maintaining it, and I'm doing all these things. We eat right, we do all this. Nothing's preventing you from doing that at 36 years old. That if you wait, you're going to be into your 60s and 70s, when you're getting your 401k disbursement stuff, and some of these things start to come to you at that stage of life. So the biggest thing here, guys, is just once you identify your goal, is start asking why it's important, who's it important to, and then once you get to that true inspiration, get everyone involved that's going to be impacted by it. Keep in mind, there's going to be two kinds of people as you start on your level of progress. There's going to be, well, three, I guess. There's going to be one who they're still going to live their own life and do what they do every single day, but they're going to be a cheerleader for you. They're going to be the one that's like, hey man, yeah, you're doing good, keep going, you're looking good, I've seen the change. Um, you know, you and your wife seem to be getting along great right now, or your husband or your significant other or whatever. You guys seem to be doing a lot better. Just keep going on it. And they're still going to have their own stuff. They're not going to be involved in it, but they are going to be a cheerleader. There's going to be a second group who, as you start to progress, they're going to be like, hey, you're doing really good with X, Y, and Z, and I've seen these changes in you. What are you doing? How can I do the same thing that you're doing? Because as you establish a new norm for yourself, people recognize that and they see it, and they see that more things are coming to you than their life has. Maybe they're having to go out and, beat the streets for all the stuff. And, we've all had that guy, like, sitting in an office or wherever, where you're thinking to yourself, God, everything just comes to them. They're doing something right. And those are the people you want to learn from, and you want to be that person. Like, as you start to grow and evolve, if someone is seeing it, they're going to want to join in, maybe on their own path or their own, their own goals or stuff like that, but they're going to want to get involved because they've seen the positive changes you're making and the impact it's having, and now they want some involvement. And they're like, "Yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna do what you're doing." The third and most unfortunate group are, as you start to go this way, they stay here. And instead of being a cheerleader and a promoter, instead of being a joiner, they try and knock you down. They try and bring you back to the person that you were, the situation that you were in, the relationship that you had, um, the financial situation, whatever ultimately it is. They're the ones that are going to be, they're going to see you starting to develop and grow. And they're, one, unwilling to do it for themselves. And two, they don't want to be a cheerleader, so they're going to try to bring you back down. Just be aware of it. That's one of those potential roadblocks is as you start to grow, you're not going to have 100% of support 100% of the time from 100% of people. It's just, it doesn't work that way. So just be prepared for it. And in the end, worst case scenario is you just tell someone that, hey, look, this is the path that I'm on. And I know you've got your own stuff going on. So you do you, but I'm going to keep doing this. And what you're saying to me, what you're doing, whatever, it's having a negative impact on this. So I'm going to disconnect myself from it. It is an unfortunate part of life and of development and progress and making strides is sometimes you lose friends, you lose relationships, um, and you have to. That's one that as you're going through this, if that becomes one of your non-negotiables, you need to make a very specific plan as to who in your life do you think could have that impact? Share with them what you want to do. Share with them that you want their support, that you want their buy in, that it's the same person, but you're trying to grow and make progress. And here's your ultimately your why, and share it with them. And if it's a deal breaker that you're going to lose a relationship, that's something that you're going to have to deal with to ultimately make the decision is it worth me not continuing down this path and making progress if Billy doesn't want anything to do with it and he keeps, you know, I told him that, part of my fitness regime is I'm not going to go out to fast food as much. I'm not going to drink as much. I'm going to go out one night every, whatever, 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever ultimately it is. And Billy just keeps calling. Hey, let's go to, McDonald's and then we can go to the bar down the street. And it's Wednesday. If that's your deal breaker, then you need to decide what ultimately is more important. Is it the relationship with Billy, or is it you making your personal pride, personal steps, and personal progress in life that is impacting more than just Billy? Okay. So that's basically what your why is, guys, is just figuring out what is that underlying core thing as to why you want more out of life, your time, your relationships, health, wealth, whatever. Why is that important to you? It can be tough as you go through the process to think about, like, God, why is this important? But ask yourself that question, because if you don't get to your why, like that underlying, inspiration of this is why I'm doing this, you're basically starting, you know, a race with a bucket on one foot because you haven't truly found something that inspires you to do so. You're close, you might be very close, but ask again. It should impact you emotionally as you go through this because it's going to bring in, I don't want to be like my parents, or I feel like I'm losing my significant other. I haven't talked to my kids and had more than a, hey, what's up? Bye. Kind of chat with them in weeks, months, years, whatever. Um, you got a unexpected bill or something like that, and you're thinking, God, I've been at this place for 10 years now, and I'm worried about this, $1,500 repair bill for a car or something. I don't want that anymore. Like I want to be able to just say here. That's the other thing with wealth. We talked about how if your goal, if you're to get from one to two, well, when you get to two, is then turning around and saying, okay, when I get there, what am I going to do with this extra money? Like, what actually am I going to do with it? Does it turn into another goal of I want to take my family on a vacation, and I want to take them to the Caribbean or Hawaii or, you know, somewhere in Europe or something like that. Okay, well, again, if that becomes your goal and you're like, this is what I'm going to do with it, have that plan and have that discussion ahead of time. Hey, when, this is, you guys know that I'm working on X, Y, and Z. And you know what? I'm making progress and I'm making more money. And at the moment, I'm taking a lot of that and I'm just putting it into, a savings account or a safe investment or something like that. But I want to go on a week-long trip. Where does everyone want to go? And you might get a couple different responses. Um, and that's just an open discussion to be able to figure out, okay, well, you know mom is saying, or let's just for this example say mom is saying she wants to go to Europe because she's really into architecture. Kids are saying the beach because they've never seen the ocean, never been in the ocean. um, how can we combine them, or is it something to where, hey guys, how about this year we go here and I'll keep making progress and then next year we can go there. Um, and as long as you have that agreement and their buy into it, then okay, now you've got a plan. Now you've got another goal is to not only continue on your path to 200, but to blow past 200 and get to three. And maybe you take both vacations that year. Um, or you just, you're like, hey, look, kids, you two are going to stay at grandma and grandpa's house for a week. Your mom and I are going to Italy and France and Spain or whatever, um, and split it up that way. So you just, the biggest thing here with the why section is that's part of it is figuring out, okay, as I start achieving this, what am I actually going to do with it? Um, the better relationship with your family or your spouse or whatever. Okay, as that improves and you start to have, more nights out, you start to have better conversations. Okay, well, what else can I teach them? Do you want to introduce your kids to something like this? That's, hey, look, here's what's important. After you establish a goal is figuring out your why, or, talking to your spouse and saying, asking them like what their goals are. and what do they want to achieve, or what do they want to get to that this can help with. So just have everyone involved especially when you get to this why section, because I promise you, as you start to make progress and establish those levels, it is going to impact more than just the people that it's supposed to. Like, let's say it's your family and your relationship with them. Well, you're gonna find your friends and other couples, or people that you see, they're gonna look at that and they're gonna see that, and it will have an impact on them. They'll start asking questions like, God, you guys are good. You guys, I was worried there for a little bit, but you guys have seemed to not only recovered, but like you guys are back doing everything and having so much fun. What's your secret? And you'll find people that are friends or fringe friends that they'll start asking those type of things because of the strides that you make. So just have the simple answer for them. You know what? It was a goal of mine. My spouse and I talked about what was most important to us and what would improve our relationships on both sides. And so I'm doing more of what my spouse wants, and my spouse is doing more of what I want. And it's important to us because in the end, our ultimate goal was improved relationships. Um, the biggest one that people will notice is like when you decide to start getting fit, people will ask you all the time, like, oh God, what are you doing? What miracle pill just came out, or stuff like that? None. It's just you established a habit because your why was so deep, and meant so much to you that you couldn't fail and you didn't give up on your plan, that you developed a habit, right? It starts with, well, cut out carbs, cut out sugars, eating more salads. And literally, I'm just walking every single day. But the fitness one comes to forefront a lot because it's visible. People see like the change in you physically. Um, and typically with your family, both close and extended, for a long time, they'll be asking you like, God, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And then eventually you'll find that those questions stop coming to you. And at that point, this is now your new normal. It's not, I'm working out to lose weight. This is just what I do on a daily basis. And it becomes not only a habit for you, but it becomes a habit for them as well. Okay. So we've got a couple minutes left on this episode here. Again, if you guys want to get involved and get a lot more in depth, and have a support group available to you and everything, just click down there or visit go.project9life.com. It'll run you, it kind of just gives you the high level, and then ultimately, if it's something that interests you, then you and I will jump on a Zoom call and figure out if this is the right program for you and if you're the right program for us, because we can't fix everything or we can't help everybody, unfortunately. But for most people, they have just most people goals. And the process in terms of going through establishing your goal and how to do it and how to think about it, and then getting to the why, which is the biggest and most important. And then there's only two more steps after this. That process lends itself to each and every goal that's out there. The methodology and how you go about it is going to be different, but the process remains exactly the same. You can just, once you get to a certain level and you're like, God, I achieved the success that I thought about. You just take the same paperwork and you've already been working on it, because about halfway through your journey on this goal, you start to think about what's over the next horizon. Like, what can I do next? And so you're already going to have a great idea, if not a very specific idea, as to, ooh, that's my next goal. That's what I want to get to. That's what I need to establish. Okay. So, other than that, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Um, Hopefully, you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys Tuesday at 7 for the next one. Thanks. Bye.